Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to Two Toe Tags Metal Reviews, and today we are giving you guys our review of Dark Secrets of the Soul by Drown in Sulphur. We've been listening to this album non-stop for an entire week, and I guess I'll open the floor and talk about something that was mentioned last week, and that's the intro track.
Okay.
Which I believe in Latin translates to Thy Reign Begins.
Say it in Latin.
Look at it again.
Adveniat regnum tuum. That's my attempt.
Adventiat regnum tuum. Yeah. You pretty much got it.
Yeah.
Anyway, but what this band don't got is a good intro track. Unfortunately, it was an auto skip.
Yeah.
I remember when I first heard it, I mentioned, oh, this is like unsettling and kind of creepy, but then I'm like, this is going on for way too long. Why is it just this, noise, for this long, and it doesn't really lead into anything.
Nah.
So throughout the week, it's like, I'm just not interested in this track. There's no point in listening to it again. So I would just start at the second track every single time.
Yep.
And that's a shame. When you got an intro track, you want it to hype you up. You want it to get you prepared. You want it to mean something. Imagine if this intro track had something to do with the last track of the album, and it's like, oh, it was there for a reason.
That would have made sense.
It would have made sense,
But
right?
nope.
But no, it's just there to annoy us or something.
It's supposed to give you an unsettled feeling
It
about
is.
what's coming on the album, but
Maybe if it was 30 seconds long, it would be more acceptable, but at that point, it might as well be like a 20-second intro to the track itself, part of the track,
Yeah.
It's that's a tough game to play. So, okay, so we got that out of the way. One of the earliest things I noticed, and I don't know exactly how much this works, but I kept finding myself singing the melody to Unforgiven 3 on top of Vampire Communion and the melody of Shadow of the Dark Throne, because that's used melody from Vampire Communion. I just thought that was a funny thing.
Vampire Communion is another
It's an interlude.
track.
But as it was going, I could find myself singing the melody of that song on top of it. I just thought
that's
that was
always fun when that happens, when you kind of just have a throwback in your brain. You're like, hey, that works.
It's like it fits on top of it.
Yeah.
So it was kind of neat. An interesting thing that kept happening to me is every time Say My Name ended, I thought the album was over, because it kind of takes a bit when there's nothing left, and then the next track starts. So I keep thinking, was that it? Oh, okay, no, it's not.
not a Destiny's Child cover, by the way.
No, it's not.
I was
It's
hoping
not.
it was.
Imagine that. Oh my god.
That would have been amazing.
Now, one thing I noticed about Shadow of the Dark Throne, while I do feel it is one of the better songs in the album, I kept hearing it and thinking, this really sounds like a Shadow of Intent song.
I see that, yeah.
And I kept hearing that through that song, and it kind of, plays a part into the issue I have with this album, is that it kind of just is another deathcore album. But I kind of felt that in the first half mainly. Those first few tracks before Lotus, they would kind of come and go, and they just felt like more of the same kind of deathcore we've been hearing for years at this point. And I just didn't really find much happening in them. I would put it on, and I'd look back and I'd be like, we're 3 tracks in, I didn't even notice.
Wow.
It just kind of went. But then Lotus happens, and Lotus is by far the absolute best song on this album, the most interesting, the most unique of the bunch. Cool melody, cool back and forth between the harsh and the clean vocals, which are introduced to the album through this song. And it's got a stellar guitar solo, which is great every single time it comes on. This song is the highlight of the album, bar none. It's definitely, in my opinion, the absolute best track. Now, the second half, I feel like the album gets a bit more melodically prominent, and it started to get a bit more interesting. I feel like that half is where it really started to pick up for me.
Okay.
But the first half, it just wasn't really, I wasn't really feeling it, unfortunately.
Fair enough. It does sound like a deathcore album. I'm not exactly sure what genre this band fits into, to be honest.
What subgenre of deathcore?
What subgenre of deathcore, or even what subgenre of metal in general? I don't know if are they considered a deathcore band? Is that what they are? Because to me, they sound a lot more melodic than a lot of deathcore bands. I think I mentioned that in the first impression too. They kind of gave me a bit of Black Dahlia Murder vibes, which they're technically considered a melodic death metal band. I was kind of getting more vibes like that. But I also get the Shadow of Intent comparison. I heard a lot of Lorna Shore in here. I think fans of these bands would find something that they liked on this album. So where do I want to start? I guess I'm going to start near the beginning. We're not going to talk about track 1 because it's a skippable track, so I'm going to skip talking about it since we already did. But track number 2, Eclipse of the Son of Eden. This, for me, was an instant playlist track. This song is just really good, really enjoyable, but the highlight for me is near the end. It goes into this down-tempo, sludgy section. It just sounds so fucking good, man. I turn it up, and it's just brutal, man. It just pounds. I love the way it goes. There's another section that has these, like, they're not quite ghost notes, but they're not full-on snare hits. I call them semi-ghost notes. Maybe there's another term for them, I'm not sure.
Half-alive notes.
There's a half-alive notes, yeah. The resuscitating them notes. So... there's a section with those, and I thought that was really cool too. It just shows the dynamic range of the drummer that's playing, and I thought that was really, really cool. The next track that really spoke to me was track number 4, Unholy Light. This was another track that went into my playlist pretty fast. So this one, in the intro, they play with the left and right channels, which is always cool, and they do stuff like that. But my favorite thing is this banshee scream that keeps happening throughout the track. It's subtle, but it's super fucking awesome and super effective. The bridge and breakdown of this track, super rad. And the guitars and the vocals have this really cool dynamic where it's like a call and answer type of vibe going with the guitars and the vocals. Just a lot of really creative stuff going on. A more melodic track than you would hear in a typical deathcore song, I found. But that banshee scream was what got me on that song. Reverting to that again, if you fast forward a couple tracks to Dark Secrets of the Soul, you got the vocals being harmonized by the same voice that's doing the banshee scream. So it kind of felt like it was a callback to before. I thought that was really cool. Again, more melodic on this one. You mentioned the second half of the album was more melodic. I agree on that. I also like in Dark Secrets of the Soul how there was tempo changes between the verses and the chorus. So it was going between about 130 BPM to 180 BPM, just kind of bouncing back and forth between those from chorus to verse, chorus to verse. Thought that was cool as well. Good solo, good stuff. Shadow of the Dark Throne, the last song. I'm not going to say too much about it, but there's this one part at the minute and 10 second timestamp. There's this noise that happens, and I don't know if it's a vocal or if it's a DJ scratch or if it's a combination of the two. I brought it to TV Fish.
Yeah, it sounded like a vocal, like they took a vocal bit and then scratched it.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but it's just there, and it's just, I love it. It's just like, why'd they put that there? I don't know, but it sounds fucking cool. Really good. But to end my little piece off here, I want to talk about Lotus as well. So Lotus is an acoustic song for the most part. Raspy, clean vocals, has a bit of different cleans in it. But the guitar solo in this song is one of the best I've heard in a long time. I fucking love this solo. It's so good. It's got so much flavor to it. It's got emotion in it. It's got flair. Those are my 3 favorite words to describe solos that I like. So if I'm saying those 3 words, you know it's a good solo. It's also long. It's about 1 minute and 20-ish seconds long, which is a nice, fruitful solo. And, I couldn't get enough of it. My speakers did not go loud enough to do this solo justice. I mean, I don't want to sit here and say it's the best solo I've ever heard or anything like that, but like as far as like lately, in a while, it's the best one I've heard in a while. So mad kudos to whatever this guitar player's name is, because he really nailed it there. And riff-wise on the rest of the album, and solo-wise too, there's some pretty good stuff there. So I enjoy this album quite a bit. So,
well, with that being said, should we get to ratings?
Let's get to ratings.
All right, I guess I'll start off here saying, this album, even though I was kind of knocking it a little bit, you can't knock it too hard because it's a well-performed album. It's not like, oh, well, these guys just don't know what they're doing. They definitely do know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And they created, at least for me, partly of like a super strong album, because a part of it just kind of felt like what I've already been hearing for a long time, so it's hard to really say that it's exceptional in that regards. And I kind of found myself getting bored in that first half. But the second half, it did start to pick up and I got a little bit more interested. So for me, it's really kind of half of the album was really like enjoyable. So I'm going to have to give it half of a full score and give this one a 5.
Okay. So yeah, like I said, I really enjoyed this album. I was kind of, raving over it a little bit there, but it's not perfect. Okay, this album has 9 tracks. Out of those 9 tracks, I had 3 takeaway tracks that I really enjoyed. Okay,
1/3 of the album.
that's 1/3 of the album. Okay, the things that hurt this album, the intro track really hurts this album. Okay, it just does.
Yeah, if you have an album that short, you need every track to be valuable.
Every track's a value, right? Also, track number 8, Vampire Community, the other interlude track. Again, it also felt kind of pointless to me. I get the purpose of this track way more than the first one, but I also felt like it was too long for what it was, so it also hurt the album for me. And then there's a few songs that were fine, but just didn't really have a lot of notable stuff. They weren't playlist-worthy songs or whatever. So unfortunately, it's not quite getting to toe tag territory for me. If it had probably 1 or 2 more like amazing songs, it would definitely be in that range, but it's not. So it's gonna get a 7 from me. I still think it's a great album. I'm really excited to revisit it later at the end of the year when we're doing our end of year re-listens to see how my feelings are then. But yeah, I think it's a solid album. I think you guys should check it out. Dark Secrets of the Soul by Drown in Sulfur. And let us know what you guys think in the comments.
Yep, and that's all we got for you guys today. So remember to like this video if you liked it. As Vile said, let us know in the comments what your thoughts are, and subscribe if you guys are new to the channel. I'm TV Fish.
I'm Vile Self.
See you guys later.